Chapter 15 Diren. There was a lake behind Diren's home. Once it had been good fishing waters, and he had kept his family fed and made money selling what remained in the local market besides. But the rot struck it 5 years ago, and since then the waters had become useless. He'd tried to fish there regardless at first. Then he'd gutted his first catch and found a flower growing through it, a stem instead of a spine, thorns instead of fishbone, and given the lake up for good. It had been too late by then. The rot showed through his skin weeks later. Then it touched his wife, his sons. They'd all perished since. Only Diren remained. He barely went anywhere anymore. Sometimes a kind boy from the family who lived closest, called Anil, visited and brought him food. When Diren's roof had broken during a storm, Anil had climbed up and fixed it with wood from the tree branch that had felled the roof in the first place. "It seems like a fair exchange," Anil had said. Besides, the tree was dead anyway. Today the boy was trying to fix netting over Diren's window to keep mosquitoes out. "You get so many of them over your lake," he said. "The rot attracts them," Diren told him. "Don't go near it. You must be careful. You have your whole life ahead of you." He always said this to Anil, and Anil always grinned back at him and said he'd be careful, of course. No need to worry about him. But today Anil said nothing. He held the netting in his hand, silent, and stared out at the water. "There's something coming," Anil whispered. "Can you feel it?" Diren leveraged himself carefully to his feet. His body ached terribly, but there was something in the boy's voice that compelled him to move regardless. He looked out the window. The water of the lake was rippling, moving, and 2 people were standing beside it. "Did you hear them come?" Diren asked. "I did not hear them come." Anil shook his head. There was something strange about both of them. They were too still, too patient. People did not stand like that, with the calm of trees, as if they belonged to the earth and always had. The calm called him, tugged every leaf and root embedded in his flesh. He knew them. He knew. "Uncle, what are you doing?" Anil asked, alarmed. "Don't go out there." "I must," Diren croaked. He opened the door, went toward them. There was a woman rising out of the water, but she was also not a woman. Her eyes were lidless, inhuman. Her hair was the deep fronds of plants that grew in watery darkness. She turned to look at him, her face ancient and youthful all at once, and smiled. "Yaksa," he breathed, and fell to his aching knees. "Yaksa." "A worshipper," she said in a voice that was liquid deep. "And so soon. How lucky I am." "Come with us," the woman on the shore said. She was merry, bright-eyed. Her teeth when she smiled were sharp. "Come with us, worshipper. We're gathering our kin. Come and welcome them." His limbs obeyed. He stood and followed as they walked away from the lake, back into the darkness of the forest that lay behind his home. The male Yaksa, who looked human, entirely human, and not for his stillness, gazed at him with dazed eyes. "I am finding my family," he said hoarsely, and Diren nodded because a Yaksa was speaking to him. And what could he do but listen, and be thankful? Behind him, far behind him, Anil had run out of the house. Anil was yelling his name. If Diren had looked back, he would have seen confusion in the boy's eyes and fear, and a new bloom flowering its way through the boy's jaw. But he did not. He kept his eyes forward. He followed his gods.